Hey VC, Uncle Roddus back again with another video, more records. Okay, so today is Monday. I had to go back to the bloody dentist again because my tooth is still not right since I had it capped, and yeah, I'm getting a bit brassed off with it, but anyway. Also had an appointment with the physio, so I made some appointments, so I was all in town on the same day. I did a whole bunch of stuff. Had a bunch of jobs to do. Picked up some more tubes for the tube amp because I had some spare money, the tax refund that I'm still buying records with. I've decided to buy some extra tubes so that when these ones die, I've got some spares to put in. They're not cheap. Got some Marantz. They're 840. For those of you who know about tubes, they are an 845 tube, power tube, and they scored me some Marantz ones, which I think are RCA tubes, to be honest. I think that's what the Marantz are using. I understand that they use those tubes also in the audio ref. God, what's the name of those amps they had there? No, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so as per usual, my vehicle took me to the record shop. I just don't know how this keeps happening. Every time I go into town, I always seem to end up, through no fault of my own, at the record shop. It's spooky. Anyway, I'm glad I did. Got some good scores, but before I get to that, I mentioned a while back, last month, in one of the videos, that I had some bonus credits from the Flying Out shop up in the North Island, where I get a lot of my New Zealand music from, and every time I buy I get points, and then I get so many points, I get so much credit, and I bought a whole bunch of about 4 or 5 free records basically. One that I'd ordered through them they didn't have and couldn't get, and I happened to be cruising around on Fish Pond. I'm not sure how. I don't know. How did it come up? It just came up from somewhere. You know, it's like advertising on the internet sort of targets you. It sort of follows everything you do, and they target you. Anyway, the record in question came up on Fish Pond, which is a New Zealand kind of Amazon site, I suppose. You know, so I bought a bit off Fish Pond, not for a while, but I sort of stopped buying vinyl from them because their packaging was really bad. I had to send back a Sonic Youth record because it came all warped in that. So, yeah, I saw this. This is the one I tried to get my hands on. It's by, oh God, what's his name? It's completely eluding me. Here it is. Willis Earl Beale. And it's his second record, Nobody Knows, from 2013, I think. This is a double LP. This is kind of avant-garde soul. I don't know. He's a very soulful singer. Very street. I mean, the guy lived on the streets. He's a bit of a story. He was living on the streets. He was recording demo tapes somehow and flogging these tapes around and stuff like that. I'm not sure the whole story now. I didn't read about it. You know, he's a great voice, and it's very soulful, but the music's quite sort of, a little bit offbeat, different, experimental in some ways. It's quite dark, quite political, the lyrics, I think, and there's a big write-up in here about his philosophy and stuff. He's actually put out several albums since this one, and one just this year, although part of the story was he was kind of going back on the street. So sounds like an interesting character. So you know, when you think about some of these people that live on the streets, you know, not all of them are complete deadbeats. They're there for reasons. Some of them of their own, you know, things that are going on, mental issues maybe, or rejections of society or whatever they are. But there's certainly some interesting people out there, and this is pretty cool. I like this. Paid more than I would have liked for it, actually. Would have been nice if it had been a freebie. Anyway, so I did go into Penny Lane. I'd done my dentist appointment and my physio appointment, and I'd been to my wholesalers to drop some gear off and stuff. And I got into Penny Lane, and I had a look through the new arrival bins, and there was a couple of things that were interesting there. There is a New Zealand heavy metal album by a band called Strike Master in there, but it's like $60, and I don't know how. It's from the 80s, and it's reasonably rare. And I'm really tempted, but it's $60 is getting a bit up there, to be honest. I don't like to pay over 50, although I do pay that sometimes for records if I have to, second hand. There was a Butthole Surfers Locust Abortion Technician album which I nearly bought. It was only $20. It looked in good nick. I've got it on CD. I wouldn't mind it on vinyl. A bunch of other stuff I found basically that kind of put pay to that because I had to keep my limits. You know, I could have gone mad as I could, you know. So I was looking through the other bins that are by the counter of all the sort of, you know, sort of random stuff really in these bins, and there was a bunch of New Zealand stuff, and gosh damn if I didn't find another Alan Broadbent record. This is the second one I've managed to find of his. I found one quite a while back. I've been doing quite well on the old New Zealand jazz. So this is a Kiwi Pacific subsidiary Tata Records. Yeah, from 1985. So this is what's playing in the background. So it's quite a nice, nice jazz record. My wife actually quite liked it when I was playing it before. So. Acceptable to her. So yeah, see, this was $50, although I did pretty well. I got a good deal out of the stuff I bought, so you know, pretty pleased about that. So yeah, I actually went on Discogs, and there's someone in Japan trying to sell this for $600 New Zealand dollars. Although the interesting thing is that when I bought the first Alan Broadbent record, or last year, I think I found it second hand for about $40, and the guy there said, you know, he said I used to sell this out of Japan for $1,200 in the Japanese market. So it's interesting what gets collected over there. I think it's quite a fluid market, and things change quite rapidly and quite quickly. And suddenly things can be valuable, and suddenly they cannot be valuable. I don't know how it all works, but. So this is a nice record, and I'm really pleased to have more New Zealand jazz, and at the same time I managed to find this one as well in the same bin, Sustenance. This is the second Sustenance album, which is well, Sustenance is Phil Broadhurst, not to be confused with Alan Broadbent. I picked up the first Sustenance record last year, and this again is on Kiwi Pacific Records. This one's from 1982. There is one more Sustenance album out that I've seen on Discogs. This is a little bit more varied album, but there's some really cool stuff on it. This is all Broadhurst's composed tracks. Actually, I think Mr. Broadbent is his. No, I see some of these are mix of covers, yeah, and his own stuff. Horace Silver, yeah, Charlie Parker, stuff like that. Whereas this is all 100% self-composed music. So yeah, pleased to find this is a nice record too. So yeah, I'm really pleased to find these and add them to my New Zealand jazz collection. New Zealand jazz, there isn't a lot of more avant-garde jazz in New Zealand. There has been the odd one, and I haven't really got a lot of it. There was the Braille stuff, which was more art jazz. It wasn't strict jazz in some sense, but it certainly was very jazzy, and it was pretty arty, and it was quite a unique. The Braille stuff was quite unique, with a primitive art group and stuff like that, and 6 volts. Yeah, that 6 volts, whatever they were called. And then a bunch of other stuff which is still eluding me from that label. But yeah, there has been a couple of records that have been shown to me on Facebook that are more avant-garde, but most of the jazz that I've found, certainly from the 70s and 80s, it's really nice music, but it's not adventurous or free. There are some very slight bits of it, but you know, anyway, still, that's cool. Found this today, Pentangle's Cruel Sister from 1970. This is a New Zealand original release on Parlophone from 1970. Yeah, it's so that was kind of cool, but unfortunately I did give it a clean up. There's the original black Parlophone label. Yeah, but the vinyl, I cleaned it and there's still a lot of marks on it, and it didn't play all that well, especially at the start of it. I think it's been really, really thrashed. I mean, whoever had it, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. There are marks, there are sort of stains that didn't come off, but there are a few light scratches, but it played with some distortion and static, so it's kind of like that sound of a record that's kind of been played to the point where it's almost wearing out. Although that was more at the start of it than in the main body of the record, but certainly on the start of each side. So I don't know, I might end up taking this back. It wasn't hugely expensive, and I don't know how much it's never sold on Discogs actually, the New Zealand version. So yeah, that was a wee bit disappointing. It was a pretty cool record. And then the last one that I saw was this, and I recognised the title. I didn't recognise the cover, but that's partly because back in the late 80s or somewhere around there, I borrowed a John Lee Hooker record from the library in town, and I taped it onto cassette, and it was one of those records that I used to listen a lot to as I drifted off to sleep at night, and it was a fantastic set of John Lee Hooker blues from the mid to late 50s, I think. This session, yeah, these recordings will date from the late 50s, yeah, late 50s, and I saw this sitting here thinking, and I thought, wow, yeah, cool, I think I know that record. And the first track, I Brought You a Brand New Home, I mean, that was a track that I always heard the most before I drifted off to sleep. And so I got this home and had a listen to it, and yes, it is the same album. It was released in 1979, but that was the first time it had ever been released. The material had ever been released, even though it was recorded in the 50s. So I think this is one of my favourite John Lee Hookers. I mean, there are so many John Lee Hooker records, to be honest. I mean, there are just, enough to keep you going for your whole life. Thousands of them probably, in compilations and reissues and all sorts. But yeah, really cool. So really pleased to have that. So that was the one I saw first, and so I kind of had that in my hot little hands. And then I had a few other records out of the bins, which I ended up putting back because I found those jazz ones in that. So, but the catch of the day, and it's not a record, was this in the book bin. They got a bin that you know, just in the middle of the shop with the occasional old magazines and stuff like that, and biographies of musical related to music and that. Stranded in Paradise by John Dix. This is the first edition from 1988, and it's actually quite a hard book to find. And this is a really impressively cool and good overview of the New Zealand music scene from pretty much their very first recordings in the late 40s. Right through to the late 80s when it was written. There is an updated version which I read, which we got out of the library recently, which has a slightly different cover, and I'd seen that issue down in Dunedin last year, but they wanted $75 for it, so I picked this up for $30, and it's in, you know, absolutely mint condition. I mean, not in mint condition, but it's in really good, it's all intact and great condition, and it's a great read. So looking forward to, you know, reading it again. 1955 to 1988, and yeah, difficult book to find nowadays. So I'm really pleased to have this. So I couldn't leave that on the shelf. So yeah, it was a worthwhile visit to the record shop today, and pleased I did go in there. I'm pleased that my van drove me there without any prompting from me, as it does in the car. Both vehicles do the same every time I come in town. I don't know. Got on Discogs last night and ordered some more records, so there's 3 more albums of New Zealand compilations coming from Germany, and I've got some more coming from the States, and then I've got another one coming from the States, and then I've got 2 more coming from Flying Out. So there's plenty more records on the way. When will it stop? Alright, well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all again next time. Happy vinyl hunting, people.